Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, and Greg. Now, Captain Finance himself, Sully.
What is going on? Another great day here in the Loft 100 studios, and welcome to the Big Biz Show. We are broadcasting, emanating out of beautiful, sunny, soon-to-be cooler Southern California. I am Costa, our boy Sully, Captain Finance. Little dent in his cape. He's under the weather, but he will be back very, very soon. We wish him the best. Of course, Mary Bird Godwin at the bar as usual, and that doesn't sound good. Mary Bird Godwin.
Not for 8.5 years.
Sorry. Mary Bird Godwin throwing up in her shoes as usual. No. Mary Bird Godwin.
That was the old me.
That's the old we, the old you with us here, and of course our executive producer, Greg Todoroff. Do you guys? Can you think back to when you were part of, or maybe you weren't part, as far as Greg is concerned, you guys as well, planning or being part of planning your wedding?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously.
I just found the address list or the invite list because I was going through my mom's things at her house, and I found this old document. It was like the very first form of a Word Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. And it was like had all my notes on who said yes and what they gave me. It was like all printed out. It's not crazy. Speaking
of weddings, Tim Reitman, former UCLA Bruins, Chicago Bears Super Bowl winner, owns a great ranch, Lazy Bear Ranch, up in Idaho, and they hold weddings there, along with hunting and stuff. He'll be on coming up next.
Nice.
The reason I asked is that, I'm kind of, it's got to be a good wedding, man. I want to know beforehand, food, venue, who's going. That type of thing.
There's some criteria for you to attend.
It is, and it's
how many toasts are there going to be?
Exactly.
God.
Band or DJ? It's a day trader trio going to be playing.
Yeah, band or DJ, that's a good question.
That's what I want to know. We're invited to a wedding in October. There are 10 bridesmaids, and there are 10...
I had 10 bridesmaids. I did.
Did you have 10 groomsmen?
I got a lot of friends, yeah.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Are you
I have a lot of friends. Yeah. No, maybe I had 9. 3 from before. Yeah, I had 9. Yeah.
Do you remember how?
I don't know.
Okay.
You don't remember?
Greg's off. I'm not even married.
No, I'm not sure I was. Not sure I was there.
You didn't plan it. You didn't show up. But you got a ring on your finger.
I got that.
Okay, there you go.
Just grab your penguin outfit and be there on this date at this time. My wife, she had her best friend as her maid of honor, and I had 2 best men. I had my brother and my future brother-in-law, her brother. And we had a very, very small ceremony, and then we had kind of like just a big party reception the next night. We did a Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
But this thing has taken on a life of its own. And it is...
Is it a destination wedding?
No, it's here in town.
Okay.
Well, yeah, because there's people coming in from all...
But it's not like in Tahiti or some...
Oh, God, no. No, like them, but don't like them that much.
Okay.
I'm not. No, I'm not flying.
Destination wedding.
So am I getting? You're not excited about this one?
Yeah, I think so.
Sometimes
are
you
you coming down with the black lung yourself?
Sometimes you get those wedding invitations, and it feels like you got an invoice in the mail.
Maybe the greatest thing that's ever been said on this show.
That was really
It is so true.
And you think, man, and you want my time?
Right. Right. And you got to come on a Saturday?
Yeah, you got to blow a Saturday in the fall when there's football on.
When there's football on. Yep.
But you're right.
That's asking a lot.
Gas.
The whole deal.
Hotel.
Yep.
And then
there's the gift. And then
the gift.
And I was looking at the friggin' registry.
Yeah.
And it's just...
A registry, this is a really good topic because I'm just looking at all this stuff I got from my wedding, like crystal bowls and all these things
that you never use.
Yeah.
So, but now people are saying put money towards my honeymoon or put money towards, and I'm down with that because
all right.
Did you do that? Do you give towards people's honeymoons as a present?
I guess I probably would.
Oh boy. We'll continue.
Or would you rather give them a crystal bowl?
Tim Reitman, Super Bowl champion. Coming up next, right here, The Big Biz Show. Biz Show, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. As always, we appreciate you being along with us here inside the Loft 100 Studios. Costa, Marybert, Godwin, Greg Todorov. Hey, Sully. And the Day Trader Trio over there. Thank you.
Hey.
James, you live on a big canyon. You live on a big canyon, don't you?
I do.
I mean, you live in nature like I do.
And I got flagged and
Yeah.
to get insurance, and
Yeah.
it's crazy.
It's nuts. And you do everything right. So for the rest of the country, there's a thing called defensible space. So
Yes.
let's say this is your home, and they want 300 feet of dispensable space, meaning that the fire department's asking you to cut back. So I put pickleweed, or as many people call ice plant, because it's made out of water.
Yeah.
And and good news is I've kind of banks, so you don't really have to see the ugliest plant on the planet that looks like 1970 called, and they want their Chevy Nova back along with their pickleweed in the refrigerator box that we used to slide down the pickleweed.
I was going to say, we used to slide down it with ice blocks.
Until
Clothes like no other.
and the speed in which you slid down the pickleweed banks was only marred by the sprinkler head that you can't see.
That was wired to a piece of rebar stuck in the ground.
Yeah, there's so many. And the other thing was, you're right. Your Levi's 501 jeans that you were wearing,
Forget
and your
it.
Converse Chuck Taylors that you're wearing, if they had a little bit of pickleweed juice, I say pickleball juice. Pickleball juice is beer, by the way. Right. Pickleweed juice on it, you can't see it until it dries, and then you can't ever get it out.
It's like someone spit tobacco juice all over.
Yeah, exactly right. We're talking about the fires in the Pacific Palisades. Pacific Palisades is part of the Malibu area of Malibu Canyon, a really, really high dig place up in Los Angeles, but it's much like any other canyon area here in California, Laguna Canyon, Trabuco Canyon. All of those are, they create their own wind as they get on fire there. 180,000 residents been impacted. The big issue, though, about this, and I want to talk to Howie about, is that California announced a new regulation that would require insurance companies operating in the state to increase high-risk areas by 5%, meaning that 5% every 2 years. And the state's allowing them to increase rates. I don't mind if they increase rates. I just don't want them to have to leave. If you choose to live in an area like that, you better budget in.
You assume the risk.
I mean, I'm regretting it so much now. I bought this great big property thinking, oh, this is great. I got privacy. Until you realize the maintenance cost of the property. I'm not worried about the price of the house.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a safe deposit box. Your house goes up in value, right?
Yeah.
But when the water bill is more than your grocery bill.
Yep. They call that
daily
carrying costs.
Yeah, exactly right. Howie, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Howie Font, our lead analyst here on the program. Howie, is this good news? Is it bad news? Because I think the bad news would be if the state's allowing them to increase cover, making them increase coverage, but allowing them to increase rates, it means they're not leaving. The big scary part for residents here, especially the folks that lost all of their homes in complete devastation, is I'm going to get covered. They're going to pay the check, but will I ever be able to get insurance again? Is I think the big question. Talk about that a bit.
No, that's right. I mean, I think Mike, I watched the earlier segment. Mike mentioned Nate from State Farm. Nate from State Farm is gone. In the Pacific Palisades alone, 1,600 homes just last March got non-renewal notices saying, we're not renewing your insurance. Sorry. And even before that, more and more insurance companies are taking away their catastrophic event insurance. So if you have a flood, if you had a tidal wave, an earthquake, or a wildfire, that's no longer something that's covered by your insurance. So that's not very helpful.
Do they do that for mugging insurance in New York City because there's no natural disaster? So just you get rolled when you walk out,
pushed in front of a subway.
Yeah. It does cover theft in the home. It does not cover being pushed onto the subway. Yeah.
In March, State Farm issued a letter, didn't they, of non-renewal? How many people were affected here in the state of California?
Well, they did this in rounds, but the letter that we're referring to with the catastrophic insurance was 30,000 people in very high-risk areas. Like I said, 1,600 of those were in Pacific Palisades specifically. And I think what you were talking about with the regulation, that's to solve the problem, but the fundamental point is if you're going to have a $1 million home just as a baseline, that's going to cost more and more to insure relative to what it was a few years ago. And also, if you have the same level of risk, but you have increasing prices on homes, well, that's going to increase to an untenable level the replacement value of the homes, and therefore it's going to have to increase rates. So I think this actually creates, and I've said it before on the show, a ceiling for property prices.
Well, so that's the next step, is because, look, there's an inventory problem in high, as we saw Jason Berry last week, said high priced areas across the country. There's an inventory problem, and I think the inventory problem is that people aren't leaving. they want to stay there. This may change all of that, right, Howie? This may make it so, because it's interesting how one thing affects so many other things here. Because insurance leaves. Suddenly, prices would drop. If you couldn't get insured, imagine if you had to be self-insured, even on a condominium. Yeah. How many people could afford to rebuild their condo? I mean, what do we got? 60% of Americans are a $400 car debt away from bankruptcy, Howie?
Yeah. You're right.
I mean, so what's the lesson we learned here, or is there one? Because as a mortgage company, I'm not going to give you a mortgage. The house burns down, you can't rebuild it, and you're not going to repay me because there's no house left. I mean, so you can't blame the mortgage companies for the requirement. You can't blame the insurance companies for wanting to mitigate their risk. I do think, though, there needs to be some sort of penalty, and I'm not for regulation, but I will tell you this. If I'm paying an insurance premium for 15 years and not using your service other than to insure, and the minute I have to use your service, you drop me like a tummy tuck on a plus-size model. Sorry, Mike. You drop me like Dick Cheney's hunting partner. You drop me like acid before a Woodstock concert. You drop me like like Mike's self-confidence before he stands in front of the people.
Never had it to begin with, so that's okay.
Anyway, so
the keep it going. How many more?
I mean,
On a roll.
The point I'm trying to make is, like, for Mary, do you worry about this for as a single mom going through insurance, or is it times like this that you worry about? Because I worry about this every day of my life. Like, I don't care about anything in the world other than when the winds blow up and the next thing you know, I'm just worried about losing the house.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I worry, but I can't control it, so I can't worry about it every day, or else I would, there's too many other things to worry
Howie,
about.
I know that you are just right of Donald Trump in terms of political views. However,
let's give that to the world. Sure.
As is Mike. What is there a political story here that I'm hearing brewing up here? To Mary's point, by the way, there's so much information that we can't point at one thing, but obviously the guns are being pointed in every direction here. Is this part of the defund, the fire department defund in the past? Was this somebody forgot to turn the switch on for the water and the fire hydrants? Is that just one of the metrics here? What are you seeing? Because I know you've studied that part of it too.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we don't have the full accounting of the facts, so I don't want to indict anybody yet. But I will say that it does seem that this was gross mismanagement. Just this year, they pulled millions and millions of dollars out of the fire department's budget. I think there's probably a lack of prioritization on what their actual job was. So
now, is that because we have a failed state of the failed Republic of California? That doesn't sound political. I mean, it sounds like they were trying to balance the budget. Let's not pay this because we got to pay this.
It was a lot of robbing Peter to pay Paul too.
That's what I'm saying.
When you look at the black and white of it. But they also gave how many millions of dollars of literal fire equipment to Ukraine? And it's equipment that people are saying, wait a second, there are some that were saying,
well, I mean, the humanitarian factor I can't blame, but
we're going to need this maybe sometime.
Well, so to your point, I don't blame the humanitarian effort, especially when it comes to Ukraine. However, if you live in the areas that are at risk, California being one, and many of your listeners across the country don't really realize that we are just, I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Mm-hmm. We've had several years without this. It's going to happen again and again and again. The problem is, why are we so quick to knee jerk, but then once it all sounded, oh, we're fine now, and we don't resolve. I'm not talking about the tinder box we live in. I don't care about that. I'm talking about the regulation side of it and the insurance side of it, because I will tell you, even though a lot of these folks up in Pacific Palisades are well-known actors, well-known musicians, well-known authors, and many just successful people that you don't know, they can probably rebuild their homes because they got the cake in the bank, but they're never going to be able to get insurance again, at least from the same companies. And that's the problem. Don't you think? No. Isn't that what has to be fixed?
Yeah, I think no one's going to want to put a pile of money away, in this case, the state insurance of last resort that is being tapped into now, and is probably going to be insolvent after this now $50 billion event. I know I gave you the number $10 billion, but JP Morgan's revised it upwards 5 times that amount. So they're going to have a big hole in the budget, and no one wants to build it up to the point where there's just money sitting there that they could use for other things. So people forget very quickly.
Could we do a Big Biz show, like in another state that like Austin that has a surf pool?
You want to?
I think let's get the hell out of here.
Nothing but sagebrush and sand.
Yeah, we had a high school called Sagebrush Canyon High School. Fire hydrant high. Welcome here to California. Big Biz Show, bigbizshow.com.
Over 175 countries and all the ships at sea on the American Forces Network, as always. A shout out to our brave men and women of the United States Armed Forces. Big Biz Show rolls on from Southern California. Loft 100 Studios, Costa, Miraber, Godwin, Greg Todoroff, and Sully.
That's right, you got it. Thank you to Bloomberg, El Financiero, Bloomberg EU, as well as Big Biz, Biz Television Network, American Life Network, and of course, as Mike mentioned, we are simulcast on radio over American Forces Radio Network. Big Biz Show is on the air. Great to have you along. Day Trader Studios here today. Mary, Mike, Greg. EnGene is a really interesting company, and I got a chance to talk to Ron Cooper here on the air about a month ago, and got a chance to talk to him just the last couple of weeks as we started kind of digging into to their publicly traded company. Their stock symbol is ENGN. Company's called EnGene. Ron Cooper's the CEO. And what's interesting is I started getting emails from viewers after we got the original email, Greg, from someone saying we should take a look at this company. And it's all about a risk-reward ratio for EnGene as far as the business goes. But I thought we'd bring Ron Cooper back on and have another chat. Ron, great to see you again, sir. How are you?
Great to see you, Sully. A real pleasure to be here.
Hey, can we talk about what NMBC is and how it's currently treated? Let's give a little bit of an education on what you guys are up against here.
Sure. So non-muscle invasive bladder cancer. So this is a top 10 cancer in the U.S. So you think about lung cancer, you think about breast cancer and the like, but it's a very common cancer in the United States. And when you think about NMIBC, it really affects, so say you're in your mid-70s, right? So you're a mid-70s individual. If you're diagnosed with NMIBC, you have a 20% chance of progressing over a 10-year time frame before it progresses to muscle invasive bladder cancer, which gets very, very serious. So it's a cancer, but it's a slow cancer. And right now you get treated with a drug called BCG. It's a product that's over 50 years old. It's an immunotherapy, or you get off-label chemotherapy. But unfortunately, those products will not work for a long time frame. And patients usually will end up having their bladder removed. And that surgery, unfortunately, has an up to 10% chance of death. So pretty serious, but really high morbidity too. So you'll end up having an ostomy bag. So
I was going to say
you have to go to the bathroom through that, and you lose a lot of sexual function as well. So pretty tough disease.
I'll say the what's interesting with this, especially with EnGene, stock symbol once again ENGN, and you can get more information by going to engene.com. We'll put up the website there on the screen for our viewers. The FDA needs to address this because of the population and the addressable market. And obviously, you're in the middle of this journey, this arc of that FDA story. Talk to us about the FDA, where they sit in on this, and where you guys are at in terms of getting us to the point where we don't have to worry about this malady any longer.
Well, if you think about the drugs that I talked about, so you have chemotherapy, which is not approved, then you have BCG, this over 50-year-old product, that has a relapse rate of about 50% in 2 years. So it's a pretty good drug, but it does fade. But that product is tough to manufacture, and it's been back ordered for multiple decades. So I love this. The FDA said, well, this is very serious. How can we partner? What can we do about this? And they gave new guidance to say, rather than having 2 double-blind placebo-controlled studies for approval, if you do one study, open label, about 100 patients, you can get approval. And based on that, 3 new drugs have been approved Now, unfortunately, these two new drugs, they're effective, but they also over time fade. So the FDA has really said we need new agents to help patients who have this terrible disease of NMIBC.
Ron Cooper is the CEO of EnGene, their ticker symbol ENGN. Ron, what makes the product candidate, all the other things, bigger, better, stronger with you guys?
Well, what's amazing about our product candidate, detalimogene, number one, it works, right? So we have a 71% complete response rate at any time. So really great efficacy. But patients are also concerned about how do they feel on the drug. And what's great about detalimogene is that in early studies, the side effects are usually grade 1 or 2. So no 3 or above, 1 or 2, mostly mild, mostly reversible. So really well tolerated. But the third aspect, which makes it really interesting, is this product is really designed for ease of use for both the community urologist and the physician. So what does that mean? There's no special handling. It's not a big toxic virus. There's no special storage that's required. It's only 1 hour of administration time for the patient, so relatively short. And there's fewer trips to the doctor compared to BCG. So if you package it all together, it makes detalimogene a pretty attractive product based on its efficacy, great tolerability, and ease of use.
So this detalimogene that you discussed, that obviously you got like 7 or 8 proprietary advantages. How tough is it going to be for the medical community to adopt that? Do you think because of what you just said, the ease of use, is that the way in the door? And then from there, when they see the efficacy, it goes from there? Because at some point, there's the standard, as you said, chemo and BCG, and that's just kind of the way it's been done forever. And so does it ever occur to you guys that might be a challenge, or have you guys, was the ease of use part of that, encountering that objection before you even got there?
When you talk to urologists who've been treating these patients for decades, they're so frustrated because they know that they're going to run out of options quickly, and they would love for patients to keep their bladders for all the obvious reasons that we talked about previously. So it's never, it's always has a little bit of challenge, but I think the medical community is anxiously awaiting a product like detalimogene because they don't want patients to progress to muscle invasive bladder cancer, and they don't want them to progress to where they have to remove their bladder. So having a product like detalimogene could really help patients to longer and better lives.
Hey, Ron, I have a question about bladder cancer itself, because you mentioned something about being one of the 10 most common cancers, which I did not know that. And does it affect women and men at the same rate? And is it something that starts, that you're seeing later in life and older patients? And, I just don't know much about it because, like you said, we hear a lot about
But now
cancer.
She's scared, I can tell you that.
I am, yes, I know. Tell me more.
Well, unfortunately, the average age of diagnosis is around mid-70s, right? And probably the biggest correlate risk, like many cancer diseases, is smoking. So if you are a big smoker, you have a high risk, for bladder cancer. Those are probably the two biggest, demographic aspects around bladder cancer. But this early bladder cancer, NMIBC, is a cancer where these are almost like hard plaques all around the bladder. So you can't cut them out, right? There's other forms where you can cut out, growths. So because it's a hard plaque around, you need a different treatment. So we deliver detalimogene, through a catheter and kind of bathes the bladder, right? And gets rid of or slows down the progression of these plaques, these carcinoma in situ. And that's what you want to avoid, because if it gets into the muscle, then you'll end up with metastatic disease, and it really becomes, very, very, very difficult.
Ron, always appreciate the visit, doing great things for people with liver cancer, bladder cancer. Can't wait to have you on the show again. Thanks, you.
Pal.
Ron Cooper, CEO, EnGene. Their ticker symbol is ENGN. More of the Big Biz Show
Coming
after
up.
this. Keep it here.
Greg will send me.
Big Biz Show rolls on inside the Loft 100 Studios. Hope everybody's having a great day. Costa Marybird Godwin, Greg Todorov, and our executive producer, not our executive producer, but our main man.
Oh, no, I am the
is Sully.
executive producer.
Captain Finance.
Give me crap that
Captain Finance. Joining us right now, the Chief Executive Officer of Alt 5 Sigma. Their ticker symbol is ALTS. And we welcome Mr. Peter Tassiopoulous to the show. Peter, how's your day going?
Fantastic, guys. How are you?
We're doing great.
Peter, great to see you. You know, we're at 125 million TV homes across the country. We're also in American Forces Network in 175 countries and all the ships at sea. Let's not forget Bloomberg, Financiero. Everyone's asking the same question, Peter. What the hell is this cryptocurrency thing and what is the blockchain? We've been talking about it for 3 years. And it's like you may as well explain to us an algebra problem because I don't think anybody really figures this thing out. I talked to Peter this morning. I said, look, I got the same 40 bucks in my pocket for the last 6 months. And if I'm not tipping somebody, I'm using a digital currency. Yet it's still a mystery to us. So can we start with the infrastructure part of it, Peter, and the blockchain part of it before we get to your company for a second? Why do we care about the blockchain other than it's this newfangled thing that all the crazy kids are using?
Well, you know, I mean, blockchain is really what it boils down to. It's a platform, right? Cryptocurrency is just an application on the platform. And so the easiest way to think about it is think about a database that everybody can see. Nobody can cheat the system. Everyone sees the same thing at the same time, and you can't write over it, and you can't make things disappear from it. So when you think about it, it's really just a way to store data. And by coming up with such a unique way to store that data, share it, be able to see it, and trust it, people decided to build cryptocurrencies, which is just a digital representation of money.
So
on this blockchain.
So not to interrupt. So Peter, if you think about the blockchain as the infrastructure, I guess for cryptocurrency and transactional, it sounds like to me that it would be fraud proof, and it sounds like to me it would be overall less expensive to do business because it kind of cuts out the middleman eventually. Is that about right?
Absolutely. So it disrupts traditional banking, SWIFT networks, etc. I'll give you an idea. So a story I tell people. Think about the blockchain like, you know, there's 3 guys, they all have a notebook. And in that notebook, they say that one of you owes the other 2 $20. And now there's a new person who gets a notebook. He has the exact same notebook. And he says that you don't. Well, guess what? The 3 guys have a notebook that says that you do. Everybody knows who owes who the $20 and when they did it. And so if you look at that and then continue that with millions and millions of data points, suddenly you've got the entire community getting behind making sure everyone's transparent. And that's really what it is. And as far as speed goes and transparency, you know, I can send you $1 in some cryptocurrency right now with the push of a button, and you'll get it in about a millisecond.
So just the term fraud proof, I think you mentioned, that for me seems I'm a little bit skeptical about that because of hackers and I don't know, AI and all the changes with technology that are happening every minute. So I'm thinking, okay, it's starting off fraud proof and...
Well, but to his point, what he just said is, if I'm not mistaken, if you're worried about fraud, if you've got multiple guys with notebooks, they can verify that it's not fraud. Isn't that the idea?
You got it. How many counterfeit Bitcoins have you ever heard of? And then let's talk about fiat. There's nobody with
fiat currency. So because I understand, because I had the same fear.
I'm skeptical of it.
Well, sure. No, but I'm afraid, and I think that's part of it. It's the unknown, Peter. Hey, let's talk about Alt 5 Sigma. Their ticker symbol ALTS. They're publicly traded ALTS, and you can go to alt5sigma.com. Talk about what you guys do.
Yeah, so we've got 2 product portfolios. The first one is an OTC institutional grade trading platform. And we white label it for our customers. You won't see our name on the platform, but we have customers all over the world that trade cryptocurrencies with our platform. It's called Alt 5 Prime. And the other side of our business, much to what we were just talking about, is called Alt 5 Pay. You know, when you go to a merchant's website and you go to checkout, you've got options, right? You can go MasterCard, Visa, PayPal. If you see a button that says pay in crypto, that's us enabling it, and you pay in crypto.
The interesting part for me is when you talk about paying in crypto, the words tokenization come up, the words clearance comes up, the words trading comes up. Can you kind of feather that in to why that matters and how that fits into transactional cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, I beg your pardon, blockchain?
Yeah, so I mean, when you look at blockchain, it caters to both sides of the spectrum, right? Everything from small transactions to significantly sized transactions. The bigger the transaction, obviously, the quicker that money wants to get across the wire, because it doesn't do anybody any favors being in cyberspace. So that's an obvious one. When we think about small transactions, I mean, we have schools online. We have people paying their kids' tuition. And, we've got people who've got children all over the world that want to move money around. And keep in mind, we don't deal with the customer, we deal with the businesses. But the businesses we deal with, this is what they're enabling. If you want to send $50 to your kid because, they need to grab a cab somewhere, you can't really wait till the bank's open tomorrow, and you don't want to spend $30 in a wire fee to get that money across. And so all we do is enable a seamless capability to move money. We always think about Bitcoin, et cetera. Don't forget the stable coin. So when I say stable coin, something pegged to fiat, that's what we see most of our customers moving from endpoint to endpoint, to the tune of about 250 million a month right now.
Peter Tassiopoulous, the CEO of Alt 5 Sigma, ticker symbol ALTS. Peter, the new administration coming in a matter of days, are they going to be very, very friendly to the blockchain, Bitcoin type of people out there?
Well, you look at their appointments, they brought in a crypto czar, very, very capable man. The changes they made to the SEC. President Trump made a statement. I know it upset a bunch of people about the U.S. becoming a laggard when it comes to cryptocurrency. And he's right. And that was really driven by the previous administration's view on crypto, whether it be fear of change or lack of understanding, kind of irrelevant at this point. We have seen an inordinate influx of inbounds from U.S.-based entities since that election, who know that this administration looks like they are going to do what they promised, which was take the U.S. from being a laggard in this technology and put them where they have been for decades on every other technology, bring them to the forefront. I mentioned we move money. So there's $190 trillion moving over international borders every year. Jeez. And the U.S. businesses, government are counterparties to a lot of that movement. And to date, they've not really allowed crypto to be part of that process. So we think that what you're going to see in 2025 is going to be eye-opening for our industry. I
got three things real quick. I just want to point out the fact that you guys are exhibiting at the IFX Expo in Dubai week after next, I think, or maybe it's next week, if I'm not mistaken. The other piece of this thing real quickly is this fintech is going to disrupt the way we do business. Does this change the way we trade stocks eventually? Does this change the way we buy a car? Does this change the way we purchase a house? Overall, because the middleman is not needed anymore, and it's so transparent. I mean, I think blockchain is Latin for transparency, right? I think that sort of changed everything. Or am I reaching too far in terms of disruption?
We have developers overseas that are paying for their land using stable coins instead of U.S. dollar wires.
Wow.
We have a yacht manufacturer who's had a client pay for a yacht using a stable coin again. I think you're actually spot on. The way that we transact and the way we move money is going to be significantly different from what we've seen. And I'm not saying this happens overnight, but you're at the inflection point.
I think one of the things we need to point out here about Alt 5, at least the way I'm understanding it, and I get a chance to talk to Peter off air as well, is that there is this on-ramping period to adoption here in this country and everywhere else. And you guys are basically creating this off-ramp, making it easier for people to understand and adopt where we're all going to go anyway. Is that an accurate way to describe your underlying theme of what you guys are doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What we're looking at, we do business in about 50 countries right now. I'd say the U.S. is probably the smallest sliver representative of our business. We think that turns upside down, and once it does, look, there's no way to sugarcoat it, right? I mean, the way the U.S. goes, the rest of the world usually follows, especially from a finance perspective. You asked me earlier, do we see it changing the way people trade stocks? Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Well, if it saves you money, if it saves you money, and you are, I have a great question. And this is a tough one to ask Mary. What would it convince you? What would it take to convince you? Because I'm thinking in terms of, let's say our space in entertainment, right? Mm-hmm. Is it for us to take stablecoin or crypto for advertising sales, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say what would it take for you to get there?
Well, even you saying, Mike, or I'm sorry, Peter, you just saying that we're the last, America is like the last to hop on this wagon and everyone else.
I think you said the opposite, didn't you, Peter?
No, we're like lagging behind.
Oh, we are.
We call this the lagger, right?
From a blockchain perspective, correct. Yeah.
From the blockchain perspective, and it made me say, why are we lagging? We should not be lagging. I mean, if the rest of the world is hopping on this and their technology, so that just made me think we should be getting involved and getting, educating our citizens more on it so that we're not skeptical and we're not, I think even just the term blockchain, I get stuck, I don't even know what it means. So just the basic education of it, will help Americans hop on a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly right.
He is Peter Tassiopoulous, Chief Executive Officer, Alt 5 Sigma, ticker symbol ALTS. Peter, please come back on the show.
He's listen, it's like the mob. He's not getting out. We need him. Oh my God.
It is the big fish show. And if you say anything bad about it,
do we know any Brothers Gibb, any BGs? So I've got breaking news today. Final study completed for Cingulate's lead asset, CTX 1301. Of course, Cingulate, publicly traded company under the stock symbol CING. Of course, Shane Schaffer, a good friend of the program, chairman and CEO of Cingulate, Cingulate.com, dealing with ADHD. Thank you.
Good.
Shane, how are you, brother? Good to see you.
Very good. Don't forget. I mean, you know who we are.
Hey, listen, I'm his first compassionate case they come out with. Hey, can you talk, before we get into, for some of the people that don't know who you are and the company is, but there's an awful lot of people that are tuning in because I knew you were going to be on the air tonight. Talk about the fact that no serious adverse effects reported on your final study completed for your for CTX 1301. That is a big deal. This is a huge milestone for you guys as a biotech company. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, number one, just being completed with all of our clinical trial work. I mean, we've been in constant communication with the FDA for the last 5-6 years, about our clinical trial program. This is the final study, and it's now over. We have the capital in place to get us all the way through this year, to get the NDA submitted and filed. We'll have a lot of inflection points and milestones. But one of the things you said, Sully, is really important here. We've now had over nine clinical trials. And in every single one of those trials, we have either no or fewer side effects than any other product that's been on the market.
And Shane, as a reminder, the other products are things like first thing comes to mind is Cialis, probably not the right one. Different drug. Side effects.
That was initially a side effect, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. But we're talking about the Adderalls of the world, the Vyvances of the world, and so on and so forth. And this is for the people who are listening for the first time. You've come up with a drug that is, or working on a drug and going through FDA clearance and so on and so forth, that treats ADHD, what used to be called hyperactivity disorder, or ADD, now called attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And there's only been a few drugs that you could use, but it's basically a stimulant, which doesn't make any sense to the rest of us until you start thinking about the science, because the stimulant is basically would stimulate you, and you think the last thing someone with ADHD needs is stimulation, but apparently it affects the frontal lobe. But you have a time release sort of method here, as we're seeing, where you've got a coating that releases one part of the drug, and then a second part of the drug. And the reason being, Shane, I'll let you talk about it, because that's been the biggest problem with ADHD drugs, is because you got to keep taking them. There's no way to monitor it. Take over on that for a minute for me.
Yeah, so I mean, there's two classes of medications used for ADHD. 90+% uses what's called stimulants. The other part uses non-stimulants. Let's think of non-stimulants as your third or fourth or fifth choice, because that's really what it is. It's you can't tolerate the stimulants. But now back to the stimulant class. They've been used for over 70 years. And the FDA has never rejected a stimulant for the treatment of ADHD. And we're preparing to submit our NDA, which is a new drug application, in just a matter of months. So major inflection point for our company. But when you look back at the treatment history of this, they call them stimulants because if you don't have ADHD, you're going to get stimulated. But if you have ADHD, what it does is it normalizes your brain and puts you in a much better perspective for to deal with your daily activities.
I want to interrupt here. I want to read from this press release because it goes with what you're saying here, because you are in development of the first true once daily stimulant medication that treats ADHD over an entire day And what's critical is this: is it doesn't matter what your food intake is or anything else. There's nothing affecting it. This works regardless, or at least that's what the early tests indicate, correct?
Well, so we did a study a couple years ago with our 25 milligram dose, which is the mid dose. Now 50 is our highest dose. And by the way, it'll be the highest available dosage form anywhere in the world of a methylphenidate-based preparation. So this is a huge clinical and commercial advantage. So it'd be the highest dose that an adult, let's say, that has severe ADHD could actually utilize to cover their entire active day. So we want to get you from home to homework, breakfast to dinner, revelry to taps, your active day. No one has ever done that before. Not only do we accomplish that because we now timed 3 specific doses at the right time of the day in 3 specific ratios. We're not giving you the same dose 3 times because that doesn't make sense. We're giving you the right amount at the right time and in the right style. We pulse when we need to, and we give you a sustained release when that's the more appropriate way to deliver your ADHD meds. And we have 8 dosage strengths across the entire spectrum of the disorder. So for the first time, physicians, providers, nurses, nurse practitioners, PAs, they're going to finally have the ability to give patients with ADHD one tablet, lasts the entire active day, has a lower side effect profile than anything we've seen before in ADHD, and it has an effect size 3 to 4 times greater than the so-called best products that ADHD has been used, that has been treating ADHD patients for the last 50 years. It's truly groundbreaking work.
Shane Schaffer, the chairman and CEO of Cingulate, their ticker symbol, CING, also a Kansas City Chiefs loser, joining us here once again on the Big Biz Show.
Raiders,
the best record in football, though.
Yeah, whatever.
When are the Raiders playoff game? You know I love you.
God, why you gotta
Sorry, Mike.
Raiders?
Sorry, buddy.
He fired back, and I wasn't expecting.
I love it. I love it.
Let's get back to the subject at hand, please. Shane, I want to talk about, because I know I've talked to you briefly about my daughter and her being diagnosed with ADHD. So in kids, is it the same? Cingulate can also be used for children, right? Or she's not even a child anymore.
We'll be seeking approval in ages 6 and older.
Okay.
So that's the typical approval. So, if there's a small percentage of patients below the age of 6 that do get treated, that's typically really severe cases of ADHD. We'll be seeking approval in 6 and older, which is pretty much every product's label on the market.
And then
doctors can always make a decision to use it earlier.
And then you take it in the morning, early morning, I'm assuming, because then it releases throughout the day, right? Just one tablet, as you were saying, the 3 times daily, it's just automatically releasing. And
Go ahead. When you wake up, take it right away. Exactly. When you wake up, take it right away, and it's going to deliver 3 specific doses at time 0, 3 hours later, and 7 hours after you took the tablet. They're giving you a perfect day.
Hey, Shane, I got an email from last time you were on from a guy by the name of Ted Jenkins. I don't know where he's from but he asked a question about whether this is a drug. Is this more about drug delivery or more about medicine or both?
It's a new product, but it is drug delivery. So our PTR platform, Precision Time Release, really it's a very innovative platform. For the first time in clinicians, in the ability of ADHDs, is a tablet giving you the ability to deliver 2, 3, 4, up to 5 of the same or different drugs in one little tablet. Now, what we're doing in ADHD, and that's why we developed this delivery technology, was to make sure we're delivering the right drug at the right time, in the right place, in the right style. We're going to utilize it in insomnia. We're going to utilize it in anxiety. We're going to utilize it in movement disorders, in oral oncology medications, in antivirals. We're going to utilize this drug delivery platform across the board. Right now, we're going to solve the ADHD problem, a $22 billion a year category in the U.S. alone.
He is one of our favorites, the chairman, CEO of Cingulate, their ticker symbol, CING. He is Shane Schaffer. Shane, always great, my friend. And in all seriousness, good luck to you and the Chiefs.
Thanks, buddy.
In the NFL playoffs. We'll see you out here in a couple of weeks, pal. All right,
See you in a few weeks.
Favorite guys.
More at the Big Biz Show after this.